Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Ain Soleha. Okay, I would like to talk about background of inflation. Inflation is an increasing value of price when the cost of living is decreased for a certain period of time. Actually, inflation is a serious problem because when it happens to a country, it means that country face a serious problem because it will bring down the economic growth of a country. Inflation have a 6 type of degree. The first one is creeping inflation. It's a slow inflation and the rate that arises is not more than 3% a year. The second one is walking inflation. Walking inflation, also known as a moderate inflation. The rate that arises 3% until 10% a year. The third one is running inflation. Will increase the rates 10% until 20% a year. Fourth, galloping inflation. This is a serious problem because galloping inflation, it will increase the rates 20% until 1000% a year. Hyperinflation is when a country faces a big crisis and the money become valueless. And the last one is stagflation. This is when the economic growth of the country become worse and the rates of unemployment increase. Next, the real problem that Malaysians need to face are increasing of price in groceries and fuel, or we can say petrol. Based off this problem, the value of price that increase are not too much. For me, it just increased 1% until 3% a year. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
So today I want to talk about the issues of critical importance to inflation in Malaysia. There are two theories generally accepted. The first one is demand pull inflation. This inflation is caused by an increase in the aggregate demand and the cost. Push is due to the increase in the cost of production. The second one is cost push inflation. Alternatively, inflation can also rise from a decrease in aggregate supply. This is called the cost pull inflation. Cost push inflation occurs when a shortage of supply labor, shortage of raw materials, crop failures or capital dries up the cost of production and decrease aggregate supply. Next is the effects of inflation. Inflation affects an economy in various ways, both positive and negative. The seriousness of the adverse depends on whether inflation is anticipated or unanticipated. Okay, anticipated inflation is inflation that people are more or less prepared for. While unanticipated inflation is inflation that comes as a surprise to the public or comes before the people have had time to adjust fully to its presence. It causes the following effects, which is redistribution of income or wealth. Last but not least, another effect of unanticipated inflation is discouraging investment and savings due to uncertainty over future inflation. Lastly, it affects the balance of payment. A high rate of inflation makes exports seem relatively expensive and imports seem relatively cheaper. Hence, the balance of trade will suffer.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Norfatin Atila binti Zainuddin, matric number 2019236834. Hi and Assalamualaikum. So today I would like to talk about analysis inflation in Malaysia based on this graph. This chart shows among the year 2000 till 2020, that's the only 1 year that the graph of inflation become negative, which is in year 2020 with the inflation graph rate negative 1.13%. The Malaysian economy has decreased 17% in the second quarter of 2020. This decrease in inflation occurs because of This year, in 2020, our world has been spread by a dangerous and contagious disease called as COVID-19. COVID-19 had give a big and bad impact in our world, especially in Malaysia, in every aspect such as health, economy, social. So, today I would like to talk about the effect of COVID-19 in terms of inflation. In terms of the inflation, the price of goods has decreased in high rate because the government has taken steps to do this so as not burden to the affected communities during the pandemic. In Malaysia, the Movement Control Order implemented nationwide, including measures to restrict production and consumption. Then, because of this movement control order, the price of goods and services as a whole and continuously will decrease from time to time. Among the examples that can be clearly been seen by us is due to decreasing in price of oil.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sharidata Ashkiminti Salmi. Okay, as a next presenter, I will explain to you about inflation rate in Malaysia. Okay, other than what the previous presenter had said, decreasing in inflation also can encourage community not to adopt the attitude of saving, as it is now happen withdrawal of KWSP money so that it can be used to support their daily life, because the country's economy has deteriorated sharply. It is because as the decrease in inflation, so they decide to spend their money to avoid losses during the depreciation of the currency because of this pandemic. Okay, next, in tourism sector and transport sector like air transport had to be discontinued, so it will affect our economy because foreign tourists and local tourists has been barred from doing tourism activities as an order under the direction of Movement Control Order. This shows a complete and continuous decrease in services levels until this pandemic ends. In conclusion, we can see that for 20 years, only in 2020, the graph have become negative, so it is proven that COVID-19 has left a very deep impact on Malaysia and the whole world. Okay, I think that's all from me, and then I will pass it to another presenter to present about their point. Okay, thank you.
My name is Nurat Asikimi Zulkifli with metric number 2019858972. As we know, nowadays our country had a higher inflation. So, as a responsible person in Malaysia, the government should take a few steps to decrease inflation rate that are very higher in Malaysia. One of the few ways that can be taken is the government should take a serious action towards all the dealers that always took advantage to increase the price as they own will. Besides that, the government can control the price of raw material by set and list all of those goods as price control item, so that to reduce selectivity for them to rise price at will. The government can also set the maximum price for each item in order to restrict the increase in the price of goods. The government can reduce the import tax of final goods such as goods whose supply insufficient in the country by helping to reduce the increase in the price of goods in the country. This happened because the seller does not have taken too much profit on each item sold because the tax imposed is not too high. Seller who take the opportunity to sell
at higher price will be to legal action. Lastly, the government needs to provide financial assistance to the community so that they can cover their daily expenses that have been affected as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic that has hit our country, and labor productivity can be increased through education program to produce more skilled labor in our country.